Welcome to Making Music with Miss Whitney. Today we are going to be talking about ties and slurs. So let's say that we are in 4/4 time and we have a G and it is 2 beats. So we know that this is a half note. And then we have another G next to it. Let's say that this is a quarter note. It gets 1 beat. When you see this swoopy kind of line connecting the 2 notes, this is going to be a tie. And we know it's a tie because this is a G and that is a G. A tie is going to combine the value of a note plus whatever comes next would be that very same note, but perhaps a different value. Or it could be the same value, but you know that this note is the same as this note. The note name, not the note value necessarily, but the note name is the same. And that's how we know it's a tie. And a tie is when we take the value of the first note, and it's kind of like a big plus sign. We're going to add it to the value of the note that it's tied to. So we know that 2 plus 1 equals 3. So you can also write this out as a dotted half note because a dotted half note gets 3 beats. 2 plus 1 equals 3. But why don't we just write this note? Well, I'll show you. Let's say that you are in a piece of music and you have 4/4 as your time signature. So that means that each measure between each bar line, you're going to need to make sure that this adds up to 4. So 2 plus 2 equals 4, bar line. 1 plus 1 plus 2 equals 4, bar line, and then so on. Okay, so let's say you're playing this piece of music and you have a half note here, 2, and a half note here, 2, but you don't want that to be a half note. You actually want to turn this half note into 3 counts, but you have this bar line right here. You can't add a dot to it in order to make it 3 counts because then this would add up to 5, and you can't have 5 within a 4/4 time signature. But you really want this note to be 3 counts. Well, then you know that 3 is 2 plus 1. So you would make a quarter note happen right after this bar line into the next measure. And you would make sure that it is the same note as the one before. And then you would add your tie. So you would be counting this like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, right? Or if you wanted to go ahead and show that this is 3 in our counting, we could go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2. And that's how you count it and play it. So the difference between ties and slurs are ties we add. It's like a big plus sign. We add the value of the notes. Slurs, when you find a swoopy line and you know that it's a slur, there are 2 ways to look at it. One is you're going to know by knowing that this name of this note is not the same name of this note. You see how these are 2 different notes. That's a G and that's an A. And you can see that we have our swoopy line, and you know that it's a slur because it is this note and this is a different note. And the second way that we look at slurs is they're not a big plus sign. No. What they are is signifying that these 2 notes are going to be played smooth and connected. Okay? So instead of a note, note, it's going to be note, note, right? There's not going to be much space between these notes when you're singing or playing them. They're going to be smooth and connected. For example, let's say that you have these eighth notes that are in the 4/4 time signature. Let's say that maybe you have, there we go, because 2 equal 1, 2 eighth notes equals 1 quarter note. So we have 1, 2, and then our 3, 4. Okay. The point is, when you play or sing these notes, usually if it's written like this, it would be note, 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 note. But if you are going to add a slur, we see that these are different notes. The starting one to the end one, and there's some in between. These are different notes, okay? With ties, it's going to be the same note. But with a slur, you are going to make these, instead of note, 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 it's going to be note, 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 no, 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 no. It's going to be very smooth and connected. So let's have a more in-depth look into ties. All right, so we don't always have to create a tie across a bar line. It can be within the measure itself. For example, let's say that you have a half note, but you want that half note to be linked to some sort of syncopated rhythm. Okay? We'll just come up with a little rhythm here, okay? All right, so you want this half note, which is 2 beats, to be held out a little bit longer. So you put the value of what you want to be added to the half note and you make a tie. Okay, this is all within a bar. This is all 4 counts. So we have going on right here, we have 1 and 2 and, right? So we have a full 1 beat and a full 2 beat. But this beat right here is on the 3rd beat. We have a 3 and, okay? And then we have the 4 and by itself right here at the end. So here we have a 1 and 2 and 3. That 3, that first half of beat 3, here we have a whole beat here, a whole beat here, a whole beat here, and a whole beat here, because in 4/4 we have 4 quarter notes that make up a measure, okay? So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But we want the first half of this beat 3 to be connected to this half note, okay? So if we put a tie, then it's going to create this fun little syncopated rhythm. You're going to count this as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? Instead of 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It creates a fun little rhythm, right? So let's do some math. Let's say that we have a dotted half note, and we are going to want that, but let's say that we can't write that, okay? So for example, let's say that we are in 2/4, which means we can only have 2 quarter notes in each measure. Now that is 3 quarter notes. It's not going to fit, right? So what we can do is we can fill up this measure with 2, and then we would be left over with this 1, which would be a quarter note. Okay, so we know that 2 plus 1 equals 3. All right, so let's say that we have a quarter note tied to an 8th note. Okay, so we have 1 beat, 1 full beat, plus a half of a beat, a quarter note plus an 8th note, okay? We're going to add them together by creating our tie. And that is going to look like, if we actually put these two together and we actually wrote out just the notation, it would be a dotted quarter note, because a dotted quarter note equals 1.5 beats. Let's do a longer one. Okay, let's say that we have a whole note. Okay, that's 4 beats. But let's say that we want to hold this out for a long time, and we want just this kind of like long extended end to our musical phrase. And we want it to be 6 counts. Well, 4 plus what equals 6? 4 plus 2 equals 6. So you would do this. You would tie, remember, this is the same note as this. In a treble clef, these are A's. This A, which is 4 beats, is connected to this A, which is 2 beats. That's how we know it's a tie. And this is going to be an added value together to create 6. So you could also write it like this. If you didn't have any issues, any bar lines or other restrictions, you could actually write it out like this. Okay, this right here is a dotted whole note, and this does get 6 counts. Let's say that you actually want it held out even longer. Let's say that you want 4 plus 4 plus 4. That is 12 beats, but you really want that note held out that long. Well, you can make ties across multiple bar lines, and that's fine. One last thing to consider is there is a right and a wrong way to notate our ties. So let's say that you have the note heads that are above this middle line here, okay? You would not write a tie down below like that. You would write it from the note head to the note head. Similarly, if you have notes below the middle line and your stems are going up on the right hand side, you would not write a tie connecting near the stems. You would write the tie connecting near the note heads. And yes, I know that looks like a little smiley face, and that's kind of fun. Sometimes you are going to have 2 parts going on in the same clef, and you're going to have to know that the stems are going to be going up. Even though it's above, the note head is above this middle line, your stems are going to be going up on the right hand side, because you're going to show that this is a higher part in the higher register, something that's going to be a higher pitch being sung or played, and then this one would be the lower register. So you're going to kind of separate them by putting the stems from the note heads down on the left hand side, even though normally by itself, if you were to see this, the stems would go up because it's below that middle line. But here you see that we are going to have 2 parts happening within a clef. Now let's say that you are going to be tying these, okay? You would see it written like this. Okay, again, we're trying to concentrate on the note head itself and giving the note heads the tie as close as we can get to those note heads so that it's nice and clear. So to wrap up, we are going to take a little quiz. Each of these is either a tie or a slur, and I would like you to figure out which one is which. So let's go through them together. Is this a tie or a slur? It is a slur because we have an A, if we're in treble clef, an A going to a G. These are different notes, so it's a slur. These would be played smooth and connected. The next one. Though we have a half note and a quarter note, right? It's still not going to throw you off, right? We've got 2 quarter notes here, but no, we've changed up the rhythm a little bit, but it's still one note to a different note. We have an A to an F. So this would be a slur. All right, going over here, what would this be? It would be a tie, because we have one note going to the same note. The values are different. This is a dotted quarter note, and this is an eighth note. But the note head shows it is a C that is being tied to another C. The notes are not different. The values are different, but the name of the note is the same. All right, going down here, is this a tie or a slur? It's a slur. Because again, we have a B going to a C. The notes are different. All right, can I trip you up a little bit on this or not? What is it, a tie or a slur? It is a tie because we have a G being tied to another G. This is the same note. All right, that's a tie. Going over here. Here we have 2 eighth notes and a quarter note. The 2 eighth notes have the swoopy line. Is it a tie or a slur? It is a slur because we are going from one note to a different note. Hopefully that helps you understand better the difference between ties and slurs.